So we've been covering some of the state's witnesses so far, and one of their, I guess their first witness was Rachel Jeantel, if I'm saying her name right. And a lot of people, I'm sure they've got their opinions about that. The thing that I noticed about it was that first day she's a bit argumentative, and then the second day she comes back and all of a sudden all her responses end with "sir." So you think that the state had a talk with her overnight and said, "Look, you've got to make a better presentation to the jury"?
Well, they were not permitted to have a talk with her because she's a sequestered witness. But I did notice that Attorney West asked that question almost immediately, did you talk to someone? Because your attitude seems so different today than it was the day before. I'm not so sure it was all that different. I guess that's a matter of opinion. I thought that she had difficulty the first day, and the second day she, I think, tried harder. And that doesn't mean she didn't talk to somebody. But I don't know who that was. But I think it appears to me to be trying to be more patient, more tolerant, more respectful. Whether or not it came out that way is a matter of opinion.
So you're telling me she's a state's witness,
yes,
but the state would not be allowed to talk to her that night in between testimony?
That's right. She was sequestered. So she was not permitted. And the judge even said, it was talked about as they left, that she was not permitted to speak to anyone, including the prosecution.
Okay.
So, I'm a sort of a skeptic at heart, whether or not she might have talked to her mother, her friends, whatever. It seemed to me that there might have been some discussion about, trying to be more tolerant, more patient.
Let's go to Rick. Rick, you're on News 96.5. Go ahead.
Tom, thanks for taking my call. My
Sure.
question was about Rachel Jeantel's testimony as well. I watched almost all of her testimony, and I tried to put myself in the position of a juror. And I remember a specific point when she was confronted by the defense counsel on cross with a written, signed transcript of her recorded testimony that she gave during the interview with the prosecutor, Mr. Della Rianda. And she stated, I never said that. Yet there's a written, signed copy of her transcript stating, in fact, that she did. So my question was, and maybe I see it too much in the movies or on television, does the defense have the option of saying, Your Honor, at this time, the defendant, the witness has already admitted to lying twice, and now she's stating that the transcript of her testimony is not accurate. We'd like her entire testimony stricken and the jury instructed to lend no weight to it, since we find her totally unbelievable.
Okay, so let's ask Rob about that. Rob, would such a thing ever be available? That's a very radical remedy. It sounds hard to believe that such a thing could happen, but could it?
Right. No, I don't think it could happen or would happen, and it didn't happen in this case, and it's not going to happen. But it certainly goes to the weight of her testimony. I remember that as well. And surely, it's the defense's job to impeach her testimony. We know that. That's how one of the ways they impeached it. You changed your testimony. Apparently, there's been a lot of changing of testimony. She won't be the only one, but she's changed her testimony, so it seems, from the testimony that I heard from an earlier deposition. She's admitted to several fabrications. Her age was misstated earlier on to somebody. She gave a incorrect explanation of why she didn't attend the wake. Those all go to the question of her believability and her credibility and the weight of her testimony.
But at the end of the day, she was just on the phone with Trayvon. I don't know really tell me what she had to offer that would assist the jury.
Well, she is the key state witness in the case because she essentially gives testimony that suggests that Trayvon was on the bottom, so to speak, and was essentially being hit and beat up during this period of time, and that he had been followed and chased into this situation, and that she even gave some testimony, which I don't believe showed up in her earlier ones, in which she says that Trayvon essentially said, "Stop doing this. Somebody help me," to that extent, which would put him essentially in the position of probably being beat upon at the time. That's not the defense's theory. That's the state's theory. So she is key to the state's case. But she has altered her testimony somewhat over time.
When she hears a voice saying, "Stop, stop, don't hit me," how certain was she that was Trayvon's voice versus George Zimmerman's voice?
That's the nub, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to know with her. She has, we have difficulty She has speech problems. Her speech is limited.
Okay.
She's hard to hear. Even in testimony in front of a microphone, she speaks very quietly. She tends to mumble. As many I see it more as a teenager thing. She kind of mumbles into her, with her head down a lot. So it's very hard to say with certainty how certain she is. And I think if I had been the state, I might have spent more time rehabilitating her testimony by pointing out how much difficulty she has understanding questions that are being posed to her and how much difficulty she has articulating answers. I thought the state fell on that a little bit. They could have done a better job of explaining to the jury why this witness is having so much trouble.